I'm Riley, and I've finally come to my senses. I believe in the cleave, and I'm going to tell you why.
I'm Corey, and I think I may have found a strategy to beat Temur Reclamation and Jund Sacrifice.
And I'm Maria, and I've got a modern deck that you can play in Standard. All of that and more this week on the Advantage Bar. Okay, everybody, let's meet who we're hanging out with this week. As always, we've got Riley Knight as the co-host. What's up, Riley?
What's up, nerds? Great to be back. Got a lot to get across today. We've got bannings and rule changes, all sorts of stuff.
And we've got Corey Baumeister as our expert. Hi, Corey.
Hey, how are we doing today? I am excited to start to get talking about a Players Tour. It's so exciting to be able to play one again, so I can't wait.
I know, coming up this weekend and next, super exciting. And just a quick note, Cedric couldn't be with us today, but he will be back on the show next week. So Corey, you've got a lot of predictions to make.
Man, I have to do a lot of expert analysis here, to make up for him.
Yeah, you do. Okay, we'll check back in with you in a second. First, we're going to check in on the news that happened this past week and the week before. And Riley, there was some pretty big news, a bombshell hit about companions.
Well, I mean, it was a bombshell that we saw coming a long way off, I think. A lot of people were sort of like, oh, yes, here it comes. I've been expecting this one. So some big changes. Maybe the changes weren't exactly what people were expecting. They were a little bit of a surprise, but now, yes, indeed, the companion rule has been changed. You now have to pay 3 generic mana in order to put a companion from your sideboard into your hand. It has slowed down the mechanic enormously. It has really throttled the rate of appearance that these companions are having in top tier standard decks. And Maria, really the impact of this change is still unfolding. We're still seeing it develop.
Absolutely, and we're going to take a look at some tournament results from this past weekend. That first time people were playing with this companion's rule change. Of course, we've got to note too some bans: Agent of Treachery and Fires of Invention out of Standard.
Yeah, that's it. And look, I don't think there are too many people who are going to be too upset about these bans. I know, a lot of people enjoyed playing, with Agent of Treachery. It was this big dumb card that people were very excited about for a long time, but it quickly grew old and ended up with just this sort of arms race towards Standard being as big as it could be. So it's nice that a breath of fresh air has been as sort of sweeping out some of the cobwebs. And Fires of Invention, again, just any card that lets you cast other cards for free has always got a big old target painted on it, and Fires of Invention proving to just be just a little bit too good, Maria.
Let's take a look at some results from this past weekend. A couple of tournaments that we had were the Red Bull Untapped qualifiers. One took place in Spain, one took place in Germany. Now, it is worth noting that the players playing in these tournaments had less than a day to adapt to the rules change and the new meta here. In Spain, in the top 8, 4 copies of Temur Reclamation, which we talked about, and I'm pretty sure, is what a lot of people saw coming. Temur Reclamation not losing anything to these bans. Jund Sacrifice 3 copies, and a lone copy of Boros Cycling fighting the good fight here, Riley.
Yeah, it's funny that Boros Cycling is now the good guy. But no, look, Temur Rec is definitely the story of the week. I think a lot of people defaulted back to one of the best decks of yesteryear, one that wasn't hit by the companion rule change or the bannings. So unsurprising to see there. It also did very well, Maria, in Germany too.
Yeah, in Germany, 3 copies of Temur Reclamation in the top 8, 2 copies of Jund Sacrifice, and Azorius Control, Yorion still in that deck, Mono Red aggro, and Gruul aggro making an appearance in that top 8. So a little bit more diversity in the Germany Open there. But yeah, Temur Reclamation, you can't look at these results and say that it's not the story of the weekend.
No, that's certainly right. And whether that remains the case, I'm not convinced. I think that a lot of people, given the short amount of time they had to wrangle with this new format with the bannings and the rule changes, I think a lot of people defaulted back to what they knew was going to be good, knew was going to be safe. We're going to talk about this throughout the show, but Temur Reclamation definitely at the top of Standard, Maria, for now.
Let's take a look at the metagame breakdown from these Red Bull qualifiers this past weekend from Spain and Germany, and take a look at our conversion rates into Day 2. Of note, these Day 2 conversion rates, this includes the top 16 from Spain and the top 8 from Germany. And Corey, I'm going to start with you. What sticks out to you when you look at these conversion rates and this metagame breakdown?
The main thing that really stands out to me is the top 2 decks as far as what was played on Day 1 also was the top percentages of decks that made it to that elimination round, or the top 16 if you're talking about Spain. And that just shows me that Temur Reclamation and Jund Sacrifice, it's not like these decks are fitting into a specific spot in metagames and they're only performing, because of a targeted metagame. They're just good decks. They're good decks that are going to be hanging around a lot, and there are something that are going to stand the test of time until we get into M21 where we can get a shakeup. They're just good.
So let's talk about the decks that aren't doing as well after this rule change and the bannings. Riley, what are we saying goodbye to?
Well, I tell you what, I'm here with the high-level, hard-hitting analysis that you crave, my friends, because the decks that were named after Fires of Invention, for example, a Jeskai Fires or Yorion Fires, Luca Fires, whatever you call, without Fires of Invention, they're not really decks anymore. So that's why I get those coverage big bucks, because I can draw together those kind of analyses. No, listen, Fires decks are just dead in the water. If you're wanting to play clunky cards like Cavalier of Flames, Cavalier of Gales, whatever else, and pay actual full retail 5 mana for them, you're not going to win games of Magic. We've always said that the Fires deck was never going to get there without Fires itself, and now that card is gone, that certainly pans out. So no more Karuga. The hugely powerful play of playing a Yorion, blinking out your Fires, using mana, having Fires come back, you get the Luca, you get an Agent of Treachery. It's not happening anymore. Agent is out, Fires is out. There's no more discount. There's this huge discount that Fires of Invention gives you, sometimes, doubling, sometimes tripling your mana. And as a result, these decks, they're just gone. They're just not around anymore. Not to mention all the other Agent decks like Winota and the other ones that were looking to cheat Agents into play. However, there's just not, it's not a question of being able to rebuild them. We don't have the technology. The technology has been banned. And so these decks they're kaput.
I don't know, Corey, are you feeling happy? Are you like, don't let the door hit you on the way out? Or are you sad about these bans?
Oh, I am super sad because, as most of you know, I've been playing Fires of Invention and Yorion basically from the beginning. And then, the final form of the Jeskai Luca Fires deck, I also really liked, but I liked it a lot less when other people were doing it. I wanted to be the only one, and then it was perfectly fine. But when everyone is doing it, and it's the new cool thing, then it became a lot worse. So
you basically want to be the hipster of Magic, Corey? Is that what it is? You're just the hipster of Magic?
I do. I really want to be the hipster of Magic, and then when everybody catches on, it's just like, oh, well, I guess I have to go on to the next thing.
Well, speaking of the next thing, which companions, in your opinion, survived this companion's rule change? Because it hit them pretty hard.
Yeah, it hit him super hard, and especially when it comes to the aggro ones like Lurrus and Obosh, it's impossible to play these now. The only thing that these companions are in the aggressive decks to me now are just flood protection, and that's just saying, oh, if I already have a really bad draw, then I guess they do something, but you're probably losing those games anyways unless your opponent also has a pretty bad draw. So the only companion that I think is sticking around is Yorion, because you can play it in ramp decks where you get a lot of mana. You can play it in Azorius control decks where you can control the game up until turn 8 and just count Yorion as an 8-drop. It's not insane in these decks anymore because it's not something that you can reliably fall back on to like beat mono red aggro or beat aggressive decks, because that, playing Yorion on turn 5, Blinking and Omen of the Sun was just so good against aggro, and it was enough to catch you back up on its own. But turn 8, it's not as good. It's just a little kind of back holster that we got in these decks now.
Yeah, so Riley, now that, we've kind of flipped the script on Standard, at least to some point, and of course we're seeing Temur Rec and Jund Sacrifice move to the top of things, but that was only after 24 hours of having time to innovate before those 2 tournaments. Yeah. So for you, do you have your eye on anything where you're like, hey, now we've got a chance for this card to be good?
Well, for sure. Like the thing is, we can't. I don't think it's even fair to frame that as innovation, right? This is people scrambling to play in a high level tournament with a deck that they at least have some kind of a shot with. And so going back to what's old, what's proven, has stood the test of time, these Reclamation decks, the Jund Sacrifice list, it makes perfect sense. But now there's a wide open field in front of us. Well, to an extent, maybe that's an overstatement. There is an open field ahead of us where we can attack these big decks. We can look at maybe some cards from Ikoria especially that haven't performed yet. I'm talking about Luminous Broodmoth. I'm talking about General Kudro. I'm talking about Vivian Monsters Advocate. These are massive, high-powered mythics that have been niche cards if they've seen play at all. Maybe a Vivian in a Gruul deck, maybe a couple of Kudros in Knights, whatever. These are cards that now, even if they don't have decks entirely built around them, they can actually start to spread their wings a little bit. And, to a lesser extent, maybe some of these companions aren't just dead in the water. Corey said before that they're used as flood protection. Mardu Knights, if it doesn't play Embercleave, can just play Gigantha for free. It's an 8-mana 5/5, but sometimes that'll get the job done. Creatureless control decks, if you want to forego your Dream Trawler and instead rely on Shark Typhoon and Elspeth Conquers Death, you can play Kahira for free. It is fine, just in a creatureless control deck. So I don't think, this isn't a situation where you can just immediately, slam all of your copies of all the companions into the garbage can, because they will still offer a unique and uniquely powerful effect. But what I'm really looking at now is to widen the aperture on Ikoria, move away from these 10 cards that have dominated the discourse, and start looking at, again, some of these high-powered mythics, Kudro, Broodmoth, Vivian, that might actually start to really impact Standard.
I would love to see Broodmoth doing some work. That was a card when it was previewed.
Kidding.
I was like, that card right there. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Corey, for you, what have you got your eye on?
The cards I have my eye on, it's pretty weird that this card would actually be getting better when you ban Fires of Invention, an insanely popular enchantment. But I think Gemraiser actually gained a ton because the Fires of Invention deck, was playing as a control shell, and it was stealing your opponent's stuff, with Luca and Agent of Treachery. So now that that's not happening, you're able to have these nice mutates. And, we saw it in a mono green deck this last weekend that's just putting Gemraiser on top of Ginger Brutes and saying, good luck trying to block this creature that can only be blocked by other creatures that have haste. That's just something that we don't see a lot on creatures in Standard right now, as well as Inspired Ultimatum, I think is another product of where the metagame is shifting to. We're just seeing less blue decks when Fires of Invention is going out, because Fires was paired with blue decks every single time. So just because we're seeing less of that, we're seeing less disputes, and we're seeing less main deck disputes. It was absurd. I don't know if you guys remember from the last finals of the Magic Fest Online, it was pretty stock to just play 4 main deck disputes and 0 Aethergust main. And I thought that was crazy, but now I think we're going to flip that script here and start maining Aethergusts instead of disputes, which allow for some of these more expensive cards like Inspired Ultimatum to shine a little bit more in a more aggressive focus world.
And talking about Gemraiser too, think of the 2 decks that have targets on them, Temur Reclamation and Jund Sacrifice. Both of those things have juicy targets for the Gemraiser. Not to mention the fact that maybe we'll be seeing more mutate going forward, which we haven't seen a whole ton of, at least at the top of the metagame in Standard, Riley.
It's wild, because you'd think, the Umori ban, or not ban, the soft ban on Umori. I think out of all the companions, quite personally, I think Umori is actually the hardest hit. Out of all of the companions, I think Umori is the hardest hit, because it uniquely, amongst all of them, is the one you want to play first. Lurrus you want to play when you got a full graveyard. Yorion you want to play when you got a full board. Umori you want to play before you play any other creatures, any other enchantments, whatever your deck is built around. So I think Umori actually gets the short stick here quite hugely. But the Mutate deck offers something that not a lot of other decks do, and that is attacking on turn 2 with a 4/4. Arboreal Grazer into a Gemraiser is just huge. And we've all said it here. Gemraiser has enormous amounts of targets. It's insane against Mono Red. It's a 4/4. No, they're not getting through that. It kills not only Embercleave, by the time the Embercleave, they probably killed already the Embercleave. That's not the point. Anax is an enchantment, right?
Yeah.
It blows up ECDs. It destroys even snagging a witch's oven with it. Gemraiser is huge, and the fact that it is an aggressively costed 4/4 as well. It has reach for some reason. What is it doing? Just yeeting crystals up into the sky to take down flyers? I don't understand how this card works. Anyway, it's really good. And Maria, I think you picking up on this mutate deck is whether it's the Golgari one or the Simic one or the Sultai one, right? Auspicious Starix and Illuna. These are cards that allow you to go wide as well as tall in a deck that otherwise would suffer a little bit against point removal spells. That I think that mutate, people should be paying more attention to it, weirdly, after Umori has been soft banned by the rules change.
I personally love these mutate decks, so I'm gunning for them. I hope they do well. They're just super cool, and creatures. Hey, who doesn't love creatures? Well, a lot of people, but I do.
Yeah, it turns out a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, Shadow the Sky is the tool of those people. I don't understand them, Maria.
I personally am just terrified of these mutate decks, I have to say, just because I have been playing Azorius Control so much, and I've been like, my go-to removal spell that I've just been loving the last few weeks is Glass Casket, because you can kill these sharks, and then later on you can blink it with Yorion to use Yorion as another piece of removal. But Glass Casket not only can't really kill a single thing in these mutate decks because all these mutate cards are 4 mana, but also Gemraiser just gets to blow it up if I ever do get lucky enough to snag something. So I'm not a fan as a blue mage because I have been getting wrecked on the ladder by Gemraisers left and right.
Get wrecked, Corey.
I've been getting so wrecked.
All right.
I need to come to your guys' I need to come to your guys' dark side of playing aggressive decks and giving up on my trying to control the board. Teach me your ways.
Oh, yes. You definitely do, Corey. So let's talk a little bit about, we've talked a lot about last weekend, what happened in these Red Bull Untapped qualifiers, but we've got some huge tournaments coming up this weekend and next weekend in the regional players tours. And with the top 2 decks from those tournaments, Temur Rec and Jund Sacrifice, my question is basically, can you build a deck that beats both of them, right? Because they attack on such different axes. Corey, do you have any insight? Like, you're going to be playing.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing. I'm playing the very first one, so I'm not going to have any, information to go off of except what we're going through exactly right now. But yeah, that's the struggle I'm finding right now. It's like I'm trying to be in the camp of beat them. I'm trying to beat these decks instead of just join them and pick a side. But, trying to beat Temur Reclamation, easy. Play something aggressive like Riley's favorite decks that's named after him. Play some Mardu Knights. You just cannot, you can't beat that deck from Temur Rec's side. But then you go and you flip the script and you play against Mayhem Devil with that deck, and it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get smashed,
unwinnable.
It's so unwinnable. So, you know what? My expert analysis here is, no, I haven't found a solution to beat both of them yet, but I'm working on it, and I got a little spicy, bold prediction of a way to do it a little bit later in the show.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about what decks and cards we think were big winners coming post-ban and rules change, and what decks we might play at the Players Tour.
Well, even at this early stage after the companion rules change and the bans, we can start talking about some of the winners that already have begun to emerge as the landscape has changed. I've been slamming and jamming on my stream with the trusty Mardu Knights. Again, Wizards were kind enough to name an entire mechanic after me, so I'm not going to ignore that, and I've been getting it done with them, and it's been catching on. I'll tell you this: Li Shi-chan played a lot of this early on, and I've picked it up, and as have other streamers like Crokies. Andre Mengucci has also been playing the list. There's been a lot of changes. The mana base has been one of the biggest bugbears of the deck, and that's kind of getting smoothed out. But the removal of Lurrus, I think, has actually kind of unshackled Knights players a little bit, and resulted in a deck that feels better. This is my winner for this week, Mardu Knights, particularly with Embercleave. Corey mentioned before that you can't beat both Temur Rec and Jund Sacrifice, and the deck is really, really good against Temur Rec, obviously. But a card that I've been looking to explore, that I mentioned before, is Kudro. A way to fight off cards, a deck that is reliant on the graveyard. You just munch up their graveyard with Kudro, all these humans. It's done a lot of work. So I think a real winner for me is the Mardu Knights deck. Very aggressive, very clean cut. And Embercleave, of course, just an absolute house of a card. I'm interested to throw it over to you two, however. Do either of you have a real winner that's emerged? Maria, have you got a deck or a card or a strategy that has started to come to the forefront of your mind?
All right, well, I've got my eye on a pretty cool deck that actually got second place in the Battle Against Racism event that happened this past weekend. It lost to Jund Sacrifice in the finals, kind of created by Zviz Machuis here, and this is a mono-green Stompy deck. So if you're like me or Cedric and you just like to turn creatures sideways, boom, this deck will stomp all over you. And we've already talked about it on the show today. Gemraiser, a huge winner. Gemraiser is at its best in this deck. It really, really shines. You also get to play Questing Beast, which if you've been seeing more Planeswalkers around, well, hello, this little friend will help you out. And plus, you just get to cheese people out. It plays 3 copies of Titanic Growth and 4 copies of Giant Growth. Like,
Get
A lot
him.
of people
Just
will not
Swords
see
to
that
Plowshares
coming.
and Doomblade, respectively. That's what these cards are. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for something slightly different to play on the ladder, I recommend this mono green Stompy list. It's a blast, and when you like double Titanic Growth somebody, they just blink, 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 and hit concede. So it's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about you,
Yeah,
Corey?
it's
Have you
unreal.
got a deck as well that's sort of highlighted for you?
Yeah, for me, it's nothing that, is super new. It is just Jund Sacrifice right now, but I think it got better in a couple ways. I think the worst matchup for Jund Sacrifice was the Fires of Invention decks, because it just goes so much over the top. There's not enough spot removal to keep up with these decks with all the Fires decks having so much built-in card advantage. So it's not much that those decks could really do. Now, Ichikawa and the group of Japanese pros that played that original Bolas's Citadel Jund Sacrifice deck, at first I thought that deck was just, trying to target Jeskai Luka and target these Fires of Invention decks to try to have a chance against it. But the more and more I play into this world post Fires of Invention and Agent, I just realized that deck was just the final form. Like they reached it, and it's just the best way you can be building the deck. And now without Fires of Invention in the metagame to bully around these Jund Sacrifice decks, I think this deck just got a whole new ceiling to push up, and it's just only getting better.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been in a position
Why?
where Trailer Crumbs just hasn't been a super playable card, and I'm trying to hold it together a little better than Maria is here, because I hate playing against this deck so much. Like, it's so
everyone
slow,
does.
and there are so many clicks, and but I mean, you cannot doubt its power level. You cannot doubt the fact that it is definitely, as you say, Corey, here to stay.
Sorry, you bring up a great point that I wanted to touch on there. Is Trail of Crumbs being a essentially bad card with Fires because you just don't have time to, just be doing these sack of food just to look for things, because people are just playing Fires. They're doing Cavaliers, Kenrith, hasting them, going over the top, or stealing all your land before you can actually play Bolas's Citadel. So we are in a different world where that kind of grindy gameplay is actually good again. So I like that point that you made there, Riley.
Well, let's put our money where our mouth is. As I was saying, it's time for us to actually, put up or shut up here. If you were playing in the players too, and obviously I would have loved to, but I need to, give other people a chance. I'm doing commentary, so I'm wanting to let other people have a chance at gold there.
Thank you.
What would you? I'm not fooling anyone. All right, whatever. Maria, what would you be playing if you? I know you're going to be involved in coverage as well, but what would you be playing in the Players Tour this weekend?
All right, so I'm going to come out of left field here, and I'm going to play a deck that has been crushing in Best of One, and in fact, I played in the Arena Open day one, which was Best of One, the other weekend, and that is Mono White Auras featuring All That Glitters. That's right, the Boggles player is back on her stuff, and I'm playing some Mono White here.
Truly shocking.
I mean, like...
truly shocking. I mean, this is a tournament with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, thousands and thousands of people around the world, their eyeballs converging on the highest level of Magic, and Maria Bartholdi's playing Bogles. Color me surprised, my friend.
Think about this. You can definitely get away with some stuff with this deck, right? We've got to, it has the potential to be fast, and it has the potential to gain a lot of life, which is going to be a problem, of course, for Jund Sacrifice players. Of course, they can make you sack your big boggle, which is a bit of a problem. But if you're able to circumvent that, you've got ways to win that match. And it can be quick with specifically those All That Glitters draws to show Temur wreck the door because you just beat them too quickly. Hushbringer in this deck, too, can be a little bit of a nuisance, and it has lifelink. So it's stuff like that I really, truly do love. And it did show up a little bit at the Red Bull Untapped tournament this past weekend, and it's 5-0'd a couple of leagues. So, don't count it out is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maria, you do know this is a best of 3 tournament though, right? Like, we're not best of oneing it up. You do have to sideboard here. You can't just glitter your way into the finish line here.
I think we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We'll cross that bridge. I'm just gonna win in 2 every time, so we're gonna take one of those games out of the equation.
And no sideboard. Who needs it?
No sideboarding. Sideboarding's too hard. It's sideboarding's for chumps. Corey, what about you, mate? What about you? Would you? What if you? I mean, you are playing, aren't you? You are going to be playing this weekend. What are you going to be rumbling with? Do you think?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely battling, and, we're recording this a little bit earlier in the week, so believe it or not, I still have a lot of work to do, but right now, I want to play just what I know, what I love, and right now, I'm leaning on Azorius Yorion, just because I've already...
Geez, what a shock.
I know, boom, shocker.
Once again,
Yorion is still good. Still good.
Yeah.
And honestly, I played a lot of Azorius Control before Ikoria, and it seems like we are kind of shifting back like that. Something that you guys mentioned at the top of the show is that, everything is kind of going back a little bit after Companions been nerfed here. So I think this deck is just good again, but I think that is a little bit of the product of not having enough time to explore all the options, similar to these events last weekend where they had, one day. I mean, that's just crazy. Yeah. But right now I'm leaning on Azorius Yorion, but I have a deck that I am looking to explore more, but that's my backup deck, and I wouldn't be too shocked if I'm absorbing my opponents this weekend.
Well, I think I'm just going to do exactly... I mean, seeing as we're all doing it, I'm just going to stay on brand and say it's going to be Mardu Knights for me. If I were playing, I'd be slamming and jamming with my Knights of the Ebon Legion, my Fervent Champions, and my Venerable Knights. Look, I've got a build that I'm reasonably happy with. The mana feels a lot better after having got rid of Fabled Passage and the Triomes. 2 copies of Fighters 1, 2 copies of Dire Tactics. I think you want to maximize your pressure and just take advantage of the free Game 1 wins against Temur Reclamation. Maybe Kudrow against the Sacrifice decks. I don't know. Just Embercleave them out, mate. I mean, what are they doing? They block with the Cauldron Familiar. Just get in there for 6. Get in there for 8. Don't even worry about it. Mardu Knights, I think, is actually... I don't know. I mean, it's not just my tribal loyalty to the deck. I think it's pretty good.
Excuse me, I got a question for you, Riley. Did you say Dire Tactics? Did you say Dire Tactics? That's a removal spell. We don't play removal spells in this standard anymore. That's madness.
Well, we play, mate, removal spell on whatever they block the Embercleaved creature with. Easy game. Get in there for the full amount. That's what you love to see.
You're on the next level here.
The extra 1 damage.
That's it. I'm on A level. I don't know if I'm next leveling or previous leveling, but I'm definitely doing something with the levels. Anyway, those are the decks that we'd be playing in the Players Tour this weekend. And be sure to tune in. The 3 of us will be involved in coverage at one point or another. Twitch.tv/magic to get across the tournaments. There are 4 of them, 2 on each of the 2 weekends. And as I say, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line in prize money, so you're not going to want to miss it. Oh, baby, it is time for my favorite part of the show. It's time for the bold predictions, and a very, very special bold prediction segment it's going to be this time around. I tell you what, on our last episode, we made some bold personal predictions, as there wasn't a tournament coming up, so we made some predictions about how we would perform. Maria, we'll kick things off with you. You boldly predicted that you would make top 1200 Mythic, which is quite... I mean, it's a real grind. It's a real slugfest to try to get all the way up there. And ultimately, you hit 96% Mythic, as the information I got in front of me, earning you a Rare award, which is it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Hey, I'll take
nice
it. Something that I realized is, I made Mythic, which was a huge goal of mine for a long time, and I finally had the time, thanks pandemic, to sit down and do it. And what I found is once I entered Mythic, that it's a whole new ball game. It is very difficult to do well in that tier on Arena, and the rest of it, honestly, comparatively felt like a cakewalk. And then I got to Mythic and I was like, oh, just kidding. Hitting 1200 is extremely hard.
It is hard, yeah.
Well done anyway, mate. A rare rating for you as well. Of course, we rank our bold predictions on common, uncommon, rare, and mythic rare. And, we've had a rare, so let's dial it down a little bit as we move now to Corbin's prediction from last week. Now, Corey, you're copying the flack for this one because Corbin, claimed that he would make Diamond with mono red Yorion. Now, what he did instead was hit Plat 1, go to bed, say, rotation, the rankings don't reset until the day after tomorrow. I got plenty of time. Wake up in the morning wanting to cram for the exam, as our producer said, and no, missed it. Ended up Platinum 1. So did not make Diamond with mono red Yorion. Corey, I imagine you'd be pretty annoyed with Corbin right about now.
Yeah, I think he got robbed. I think we should be upgraded. Whatever ranking we are going to receive, I think it should be bumped up a couple. The rules were not clearly stated. I don't know who's judging these kind of things.
Okay.
Mostly, I think anybody who is getting a mythic in this kind of thing is getting favoritism. I don't know the results or anything, but
you're calling it a stitch up, Corey.
I agree.
Interesting.
I think so.
Well,
it feels like a setup.
And you and Corbin you received an uncommon rating, and it's interesting. It's interesting, Corey. It's interesting that you mentioned that if there were any mythics awarded this week, maybe even the show's first ever mythic was awarded, because who's got two thumbs and got the mythic rating this week? That's right. It's this guy right here. I predicted boldly that I would, for the first time ever. Now, let me preface this by saying, I am very bad at Magic the Gathering. I am very, very bad at this game. And this is the power of Mardu Knights. I made mythic with this deck. Have a look at this. Well, now they're even more dead. They need two blockers. They're dead. We've got them. Are you kidding me? Are you joking me? Are you kidding? We did it. Oh! I can't believe it! I got mythic! I had mythic! Oh my goodness! Oh, can you believe it? Oh, wow! So my bold prediction ended up being 100% true. I couldn't believe it. All the people watching me couldn't believe it. It was astonishing, but I am very happy to gratefully accept a mythic tier reward for my mythic tier bold prediction. Thank you very much. I can hear the people applauding around the world. You love to see it. And look, one of the things I've always thought, one of my greatest strengths, I think, is my humility. So I'm really not going to let this win get to me. I'm really not going to let this... No, look, we'll move on. We have bold predictions to make for this week as well. We've got some bold predictions to make for this week. And I'm going to keep the streak going, so I'm going to kick things off here. My mythic prediction for next week, and I'll tell you what it is, right? We've got Big Players Tour events coming, and I boldly predict that 25% or more of the top 16 decks across all 4 events, right? So you put all of those events together and you count it out, and 25% of those decks are going to be Embercleave decks. Embercleave, whether it's mono red, whether it's Knights, no matter what it is, Embercleave is poised to make a big splash once again now that Obosh is out of the picture, now that Lewis is out of the picture. And I'm going to say 25% of top 16 decks at the Players Tour events over the... well, I guess we'll just say this weekend, for this weekend, 25% of top 16 decks are going to contain Embercleave. What about you, Maria? What have you got for us this week?
All right, well, as much as I talk a big game about playing rogue decks, and indeed I do love to do that, I'm going to just basically toe the line here and say it's going to be a repeat of this past weekend, and Temur Reclamation is going to win both tournaments.
Both tournaments. I was going to say, that's not... I love how you, during the segment called Bold Predictions, you're walking it back being like, I'm not going to be that bold, and then hit us. No, both events. That's good. That's a good prediction. Let's see... let's see if you can get across the line with that one.
I think it's a terrible prediction. I hope it doesn't happen, but but I am predicting that it will.
Planning for the worst. All right. What about you, Corey, mate? What bold prediction have you got for us this week?
All right, so my bold prediction is going to go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier in the show of trying to beat both Jund Sacrifice and Temur Reclamation, the 2 best decks. And I think I may have one deck that stands a chance against both. And I think it is Flash strategies. I think either Simic Flash, Bant Flash, Temur Flash, something along those lines I think is going to have a very good weekend. So, all right, to narrow it down, I think my bold prediction is going to be we're going to see 3 copies of Flash decks, the Nightpack Ambusher, Frilled Mystic style decks. We're going to see 3 of those in the top 16 of the first Players Tour event.
Of the first Players Tour event?
Of the first one.
Not the whole weekend. I love this. I really hope that now it happens. I really hope this now comes true in the second event, just to really get the daggers in there, just really rob you of another premium ranking. That'd be fantastic.
Would that be a Bartholdi if I get it wrong by one day, or does it have to be a full week?
No, I think it's just a hustler if you get it wrong altogether.
Oh, okay. Ooh, shots fired. All right, and you guys,
got
I
him.
gotta make Cedric's bold prediction here as well, okay? Since he's not
Oh, right.
joining
Yeah,
us
yeah,
at the
yeah,
moment.
yeah. Mhm,
Yes.
mhm,
Okay.
yep.
So here's my bold prediction from Cedric here. I think aggro is going to have an absolute dominant weekend. It is going to crush everything, but also aggro is going to get destroyed and it is not going to do well at all.
Yep. Yeah, that's that classic Cedric Phillips vibes that we all love. Yep, just covering all the bases. No matter what happens, yep, it's the big brain play. And he's covered no matter what. You know what, Corey? I'm sure he'll be very happy with that. And Cedric, of course, will be back next week and we'll be able to unpick not only his bold prediction, but all of our bold predictions. Maria will be back in a week's time to evaluate and check in with some of the rankings and see how we went with our bold predictions this week.
Yeah, you absolutely will not want to miss the Advantage Bar next weekend after these huge tournaments coming this weekend. What will the metagame look like? We'll have all of the breakdowns, all of the data for you, so you can start climbing the ladder to the best of your ability. And be sure to check in with the coverage of these Players Tour events this weekend on twitch.tv/magic. It's going to be some awesome stuff, hopefully some new innovation, and hopefully I'm totally wrong about Temur Reclamation. Remains to be seen, but no matter what happens, we'll check in next week on the Advantage Bar.